Okay, I think we'll get started. I'd like to thank everyone for coming. This is an event that we haven't done an event in over 2 years, just like what Mitchell said. And I thought, with the state of the market at the moment, I thought it would be timely to, oh, another person, hello. We just started. I thought it would be timely to kind of have a few series of talks to describe the state of the industry and some of the key components of the industry, which will be NFTs for this talk, DeFi for the next talk in a month's time, and then DAOs for a talk a month after that, which I think are three key components of the blockchain industry that really propel it forward and expand for mass adoption next 3 to 5 years. So hopefully, by the end of these talks, if you come to all of them or you listen to all of them over the recording, you have at least somewhat of a decent understanding of kind of where these components of the industry started, what's the current state at the moment, and then where they're going to go in the next 3 to 5 years. Because if you're aware of the industry at all at the moment, it seems quite egregious, and it is. What you're going to see in the next 3 to 5 years is going to be magnitudes more. So I think to be interested in it right now, even though it's 2021, I think it's still great, and we're still relatively early in the grand scheme of things. So thank you for coming. So the idea of the NFT actually originated even before Bitcoin was invented, even the word blockchain even came about. It actually was kind of thought about in the CryptoPunk circles back in 1990s when people were thinking about digital cash at the time. Obviously Bitcoin wasn't invented. But people were thinking about how to create digital cash so they don't have to rely on the Federal Reserve and central authority to distribute money. And as one of the ways to kind of describe how they think about what digital cash could look like, Hal Finney, who I think is one of the top 2 or top 3 top contributors to Bitcoin beside Satoshi, had this to say back in 1993. I'm just going to recite the entire thing because I think it's funny. Giving a little more thought to the idea of buying and selling digital cash, I thought of a way to present it. We are buying and selling cryptographic trading cards. Fans of cryptography will love these fascinating examples of the cryptographic arts. Notice the fine way the bit patterns fit together, a mix of one-way functions and digital signatures, along with random blinding. What a perfect conversation piece to be treasured and shown to your friends and family. Plus, your friends will undoubtedly love these cryptographic trading cards just as much. They'll be eager to trade for them, collect a whole set. They'll come in all kinds of varieties, from the common ones to the rare 50s, all the way up to the seldom seen 1000s. Hours of fun can be had for all. Your friendly cryptographic trading card dealer wants to join the fun too. He'll be as interested in buying your trading cards back as in selling them. Try this fascinating and timely new hobby today. And I find it quite interesting because I literally feel like that's what's happening today, right? Like people are going on the internet, buying magic, internet money, buying these crypto cards and pictures, and everyone's getting excited because they're making money, and then they tell their friend, and the friend wants it, so then and then they become a dealer, right? So now they're dealing cards, right? And they're making money for it, right? And what the hell is going on? And so like this a very true representation of what's happening today. And so the idea of the NFT was conceived almost 30 years ago. So the first issuance of an NFT actually happened on Bitcoin, not on Ethereum. This is back in 2014. This is not surprising. Color coins, which is kind of the first iteration of an ESE, or first iteration of a coin on a blockchain, also happened in Bitcoin. So back in 2014, this guy, who clearly really liked or loved his girlfriend at the time, who's now married, decided to put a picture on the blockchain. As you see the picture here, it's of them two sharing a memory. And this is what he had to say when he put the picture on the blockchain. And at the time, it wasn't called an NFT, it was like a timestamp image. He said, "This token was minted as a gift to my girlfriend, now wife. The symbolism behind one and only is self-explanatory. I thought of it as a relationship token, and it turned out to be a non-fungible token way ahead of its time. It is indeed the first locked 1-1 token or counterparty." So this image was issued in the first kind of decentralized exchange or any type of marketplace on top of the blockchain, which was counterparty at the time. They also issued and allowed for color coins, which is tokens on Bitcoin to trade on. So there's also other NFTs. This is the first NFT, and it's called Olga, which I think is really cool. By the way, if you're not aware what a one-on-one is, a one-on-one in the industry speak is an NFT that's unique in and of itself. It's not part of a algorithm. It's not part of the algorithmically generated set. It's just a unique piece that someone had created. So as Ethereum came along, and obviously Ethereum has EVM, it has the ability to have smart contracts, which vastly increases your ability to create new permutation NFTs and metaverses and anything you want, really. And so Ethereum came along. Now, Ethereum is quite simple. It's literally just a grid pattern of hexagons. And in this grid pattern, each hexagon represents an NFT. At the time, 2015, Ethereum was like under $1. So you just buy a hexagon for $1, and then the NFT represents ownership of the land. And what you could do very easily, very simply, is buy the land. You can color the land whatever you want. If you want sand, dirt, grass, whatever, you can build a horse or a donkey if you want, or a house, right? And I mean, what else are the fun things you could do on a digital land? So Ethereum was the first kind of very basic metaverse on Ethereum that incorporated NFTs as a part of its functionality. So if you wanted to, you could build a castle on a hexagon. You can buy 9 hexagons and create a citadel, right? And then, you know, if you really wanted to, you can do some role playing. Another person's got another citadel and you start fighting, right? Because why wouldn't you? Because it'd be fun. So this is the kind of first iteration of the metaverse. And I mean, it's interesting. In order to actually participate in Ethereum, there was no kind of wallets or decent UI, so you actually had to do it all through command line. So if you want to change the color, you have to do it through command line, or you have to do it through scripts. So obviously it's back in 2015, so you need to be a coder to be able to interface with it. But still, I mean, it allows you to imagine. So I'm going to quickly go through an evolution of NFTs as a timeline, and then we'll get into all the other types of NFTs that happened and more recently. So we can see in this chart that we have right at the beginning here an issuance of Olga. Oh, it's not that clear, is it? On the bottom left, which is one of the first NFTs. And at the bottom is where all Bitcoin NFTs were issued. Apparently, some rare Pepe images NFTs were issued in Bitcoin 2016, which is not surprising at all. And then at the top right is where all the Ethereum NFTs occurred. So you have Ethereum in 2015, you have CryptoKitties there, CryptoPunks in 2017 that are issued, Crypto Rocks, which is super interesting to get into, but later Crypto Cats, OpenSea as a marketplace, 50 giveaway, Rarible, etc. So the entire NFT idea, I mean, you can see how many NFTs were issued on Bitcoin, but the problem with Bitcoin, of course, is that it doesn't have smart contracts. It really limits your ability to, you know, expand upon whatever idea you have of an NFT. So it's very interesting. Yeah, as it says there, somebody just paid 1.3 million for a picture of a rock. So we'll get into that quickly. So back in 2017, 100 Ether rocks were issued on the Ethereum blockchain. And this is very simple. It's just a picture of a rock. It's a pet rock. Like you have a pet rock in the real world, or why wouldn't you have a pet rock in the digital world? I mean, like, makes sense. And so someone did it as a complete meme. And because it is a meme, and because it's issued on Ethereum early, and because it's only 100, people value it because so much about crypto and the digital world is about memes in general. So if it's got good memeology, then it's probably worth something. So yeah, people value it. Which is, yeah, I don't know how to think about that. So this is something that I think a lot of people don't think about when they purchase an NFT or think about NFTs. You know, there's this meme where, you know, why would you buy an NFT when I can just copy and paste it, right? And that clearly misses the point of ownership of digital art, because it's not just about, you know, having that piece of art. It's about the fact that you own the art. People can verify that you own the art, and you get all that social identity, social recognition that you're wealthy, that you have it, and you have other people that might have that piece of art, that you get inclusion into a group. So it's not just about copying an image. But what people don't understand is if when you buy an NFT, there's data attributed to the NFT. And you have to question where that data is. And in some cases, like with CryptoKitties, all the data attributed to the CryptoKitty image and all the attributes, such as it had genetic attributes, all the rare elements, if it's different colors or gender or whatever, all those attributes were stored on a centralized server by Axiom Zen. So whenever you bought the NFT, that data is on a centralized server. And if that centralized server went down, then actually you don't really have that much, you don't actually own any of the data anymore. So the entire NFT falls apart. And that's a really big issue. So the reason why people might want to use a centralized server or even use a kind of somewhat decentralized server protocol like IPFS is when you build an image on the chain, you don't have storage on the chain is very expensive. So if you've got an image that's got a very high that needs a lot of storage, in order to put on chain, it's going to cost you $1,000 to store. So what people have made a compromise with is use IPFS, which is kind of like torrents, but for storage. And so this kind of creates a decentralized solution to this, such that if the company goes away, you can use a decentralized protocol to still have the NFT there. But the problem is that it still has problems. Ideally, what you'd want is to have the image on chain, such that the image is there for as long as the chain exists. So no matter what happens, if the chain's there for 100 years, you own the NFT as long as the chain exists. And that's really important to talk about because otherwise, if you buy an NFT and it's worth $1 million and you buy it, but it's on a centralized server and you're expecting returns in 5 years' time, but then that company goes down, but then you've lost $1 million in capital, right? You can really got to think about this stuff. So there's some examples of NFT collections on different servers. So you have, once again, CryptoKitties as a centralized server, on a centralized server. Then you have Hashmarsh and Bored Ape Yacht Club, which is a collection of NFTs that have a fair amount of bytes behind them, so there's one IPFS. And then you have collections like CryptoPunks and Cryptos, etc., which when you actually look at them, which I'll show you examples later, the image quality is pixelated, like 8 pixels, because that image does not require that much storage to get put on chain. So it's very important that people understand this when they think about NFTs. So if you've been in the NFT space at all, you would absolutely know about CryptoPunks. It's very simple. Back in 2017, someone in the NFT space thought, well, why don't we create a 10,000 collection of pixel art people, and every single piece is unique. It's algorithmically generated. You could identify with a particular piece and get an airdrop for free at the time. You have to just mint it. And it's just a cool experiment. What's really interesting about CryptoPunks in particular, and which I think is the reason why they've really blown up, is because so not only was it 4 years ago, but the CryptoPunk represents not just the fact that it's an image and you might personally identify with the image, but it also represents the community that you must have been a part of when you obtained that CryptoPunk. So we're talking about the people that were there at the time that you were there. We're talking about the state of Ethereum at the time. We're talking about the energy of the industry at the time. We're talking about all the social capital that you must have had at the time. All these things are super important and actually are represented as ownership of CryptoPunk. So when you own a CryptoPunk and you're certified ownership in 2017, everyone knows straight away you're an OG. Like you were there 4 years ago. So that has so much social capital weight. It allows you to enter doors straight away, right? It allows you to have a conversation that someone otherwise wouldn't listen to you about. So that's what is super important to understand about NFTs. It's not at all about the art. Art's cool, but it's about representing what it meant to own art that time and where you're at. It is absolutely the reality that entire people's careers are built on the fact that they got airdropped a CryptoPunk in their wallet. Like, for sure. Like, their entire career. Like, some people, their career started on that. and that started 6 months ago, and now they're in all the inner circles, now they're on all the deals, all the inner deals. Now they're an influencer on Twitter, right? Now they're rich as well, because the floor price at the moment, I think, is like 100 ETH, which is like 330k US. So you're also rich, right? So that's what this represents. And I think that the entrance of Visa into the industry by buying a CryptoPunk really describes everything that I said, or really validates everything I said really well. Like, why would Visa buy into this crap if it wasn't real, or if it wasn't significant? So, in essence, Visa also decided to be part of this history because they think that this is going to be a big part of the world in the future. By the way, PFP means proof of profile, which is profile pic. So the idea is that these are all like profile pic images you put Twitter as part of your identity. So with the success of CryptoPunks, people decide, oh, well, I could just do my own. So you have other kind of 10K collections like this. You have the ape, which is a bored ape. This bored ape's got gold grills and a hat and glasses, and he's clearly chilling. You have a pudgy penguin, crypto toes, and there's many others. And depending on who created the arts and the timing of the market that the art entered, they blew up, just like the CryptoPunks did. Right now, I think that the second most traded collection is Bored Ape Yacht Club, which is Bored Apes, and then Pudgy Penguins. And Crypto Toast only released a few months ago, but they are also, worth, I think the floor price is like 15 ETH at the moment now, which is, like 45k. So even a few months ago, an artist, a correct artist at the right time in the market, could have created a collection and printed money that helped other people print money if they bought it early. It's really interesting. I mean, to me, it's quite obvious that, if you're being in the industry at all, you would have seen hundreds or even thousands of 10K collections pop up. They've been popping up everywhere. It's very reminiscent of the ICOs in 2017, if you were there back then. It's just everywhere, and there are scams, and the people just trying to just create random collections of art that are absolute trash, and people still buying them because they think that their collection is worth something. You even have Snoop Dogg buying an ape, which I find very interesting. There's many other kind of influential people outside of the industry like buying into it. So I don't know if that means it's significant or if that means that the industry is incredibly egregious and everything's going to shit the bed in 6 months' time. I don't know. But yeah, obviously he finds it funny and interesting. So there are other type of NFTs. So rather than have a profile pic, these are more algorithmically generated. So these type of artwork is more aesthetically pleasing, that people think, that actually want to hang up on the wall, or maybe hang a TV on the wall and then put the image on the TV. So there are collections like art blocks, which is the big kind of, I don't know how to explain that piece of art. This nice looking piece of art, and the squiggly line and a few others. Art blocks is the kind of entity behind curating all this art. So on OpenSea, they work with artists, and then they go through the artist's work, and then they kind of curate whether or not they think the art is worthy of their filter. And so what happens is, if that is the case, because art blocks has a really fine line what they think what art is good, buyers take that seriously, and so whatever kind of artwork comes out as a curation of art blocks, buyers tend to buy it real quickly. So you have the squiggly line there. It sounds so ridiculous, but art blocks curated a collection of squiggly lines, and each squiggly line looks similar to what you see there, but one squiggly line could have like a different spectrum of rainbow, or the squiggly line might have different types of squiggles. But it's literally like hundreds or thousands, like thousands of just squiggly lines, and they're worth so much now. And I don't know why, but people obviously like a squiggly line. It's sick, right? Why not? I would love to have a squiggly line on the wall, right? And so that Fidenza, this is mind-blowing, that Fidenza, Fidenza was another art collection, and that Fidenza particularly went for 1,000 ETH, right? So it's like I don't know what it was at the time, like 3.5 million.
It's right then. 3.3.
Oh, it's right there. Thank you. So basically, all these collections and art pieces are algorithmically constructed. So the artist comes along, builds a kind of base elements of a piece of art, and then the algorithm comes along and then uses those kind of base elements to produce the art. So it's pretty cool because when you actually go to mint the NFT, if you're minting it, you actually don't know what art you're going to get until you press the mint. So when you press the mint, whatever randomness is within that contract actually determines what the art piece is. So your timing of when you press the mint actually determines art, which is pretty cool. So Art Blocks Curated as an entity has done, as of today, almost 220,000 ETH worth of volume, which is like $750 million worth of volume since it's been on OpenSea, which is like, I don't know, 8-9 months or whatever it is. So, I mean, it's fascinating. So this is just another example of the euphoria of the NFT market. So Christie's is a fine art auction house that was founded in 1766, and they have huge international auction sale hubs in Hong Kong, London, Shanghai, Paris, you name it, and they deal with fine art pieces, from like physical fine art pieces. And so you would think, they've been around since 1766, they're probably not that innovative, we're going to make so much money selling original art, but they decided to kind of be at the forefront of innovation. And so they curated art from Beeple. So Beeple is an artist that has been creating art every day for 5,000 days. So it's like, 14, 15 years. And before issuing digital art, he had never sold an art piece over $100. He was just, he was just very consistent with the artwork, and it was just unique. And he slowly started to produce NFTs, and I think his first NFT that he sold was $66,666.66. I don't know why he's infatuated with the number 6, but and he released a few more NFTs. And then the kind of aha moment of this particular situation was when I don't know what you call this, a collage of all 5,000 pieces of his art over the last 5,000 days was brought together and encapsulated to this image. This is the image of all of his art, 5,000 days worth of art. And this image, through Christie's, was sold for $69 million back in March. Right, you're going to think, Beeple hasn't sold a piece of art over $100 his entire life, and all of a sudden it's $69 million. And he decided, as soon as he got $69 million, it was an ETH, he sold the ETH straight away, which if you actually look at the timing of the market, it actually made sense, but I mean, it was clearly not crypto native. And I think this tweet just explains all of it. Holy fuck, like, what the fuck is going on? How is this possible? Like, what is happening in this industry? So we're going through a few types of NFTs, profile pic NFTs, going through algorithmic generated NFTs, and so this NFT is very fascinating. And being right there when Loot first came out, seeing it all happen, it was mind blowing. So Loot is very simple. It is a black background with white text. There's no art, it's what you see there. I don't know if any of you ever have played RuneScape or Dungeons and Dragons, but it has elements of role-playing in it. So those words that you see there are kind of items that you have. And so if you're playing Dungeons and Dragons, for example, you have these items, and you're supposed to role-play with those items that you're supposed to have in order to be a part of the story with the people you're playing with. It's kind of reminiscent also of RuneScape, where you have items that you can use as you kind of walk around and do whatever you want to do. And so it's very simple. There's rarity attributed to loots, just by, I think 8,888 loots were given out. And so there's attributed rarity to all the different items that are possible. So it could be that, I think it's a divine robe I don't know how many divine robes are, but I think divine robe is the most rare attribute, and not that many loots have that item. So there's some rarity attributed to loot items, and what's very important is that the inventor of loot was the founder of Vine. So the guy that invented loot, he has a track record of building great products from young, and so that gave the project great credibility. And also the timing of the market, when loot released, NFT mania was absolutely crazy. This would have been almost 2 months ago. No, this would have been early September, so about a month ago. So loot was released. It was a free mint. No one had to buy it an entry. They just had to press the mint button. And within 5 days, it went from a cost of 0 to enter to loot floor was 18 ETH. So that's like 50K US. And so that's crazy, you know, no one knew about it. Everyone had a free chance of minting. And then all of a sudden, 5 days time, you've even got one loot that was worth 60K US. And then, I think 2 days after that, an airdrop occurred where they said every single person who holds loot got airdropped a token. It's called a venture god. Because, you know, you have loot and you've got your pick and, you know, like you're mining gold, obviously. Because what's he going to do in a Metaverse? And so when that token launched, it got airdropped. Everyone who has loot who's already made 60K US now got airdropped a token, and then that token went up to 500 MCAP. And I believe that for one loot holder, the amount of tokens worth that you would have had if you had one loot was 100,000 K US. At the top of the chart. I mean, obviously, the venture gold went up a lot, but also went down. But basically, from a free mint, you could have possibly made 150K US just by being at the right moment. And it's fascinating because how does that happen? How does all this capital just come into something? And these are the opportunities that are happening in crypto. But I think it really represents, this would not have happened if some random person who's unknown created loot. The fact that the founder of Vine created loot gave it incredible credibility, which allowed for it to accelerate so quickly. Now, because of everything I've talked about, and because this is all kind of open source, people can create derivatives of loot. They can create another loot if they wanted. So in fact, you have derivatives of this loot NFT collection. In fact, there's 92 derivatives of the loot collection. The second one was bullets. So there's this person who names himself Beanie, who is a very annoying NFT influencer. He's ridiculous. He decided, well, I'm gonna create loot, but I'm gonna call it based loot, right? Because he didn't give a shit, right? Like, you know, he's based. So he created loot, and it's literally exactly the same, but it's just green background with white writing, and then he's got writing that I'm not gonna post up here, like items that you probably would find in dark corners of the internet, right? Because it's, you know, it's internet native, and so yeah, it's ridiculous. But he created loot, and then it works. Capital rotated in, and if people got loot, no. If you owned an original loot, you also minted a free loot. So you got a free loot, right? And so then that became worth something, okay? Not as much as the original loot. And then also the Blue issued a token for themselves as well. So then you also got the Blue token, right? And that worth something, but that was a huge pump and dump. And then so you can imagine there's a loot collection for different quests that you could potentially go about in the loot Metaverse, realms, adventures, different spells. So these are all different types of collections adding to the loot kind of brand almost. Loot treasures, loot land, loot resource, loot craft. And basically the entire loot Metaverse has been kind of created around loot, because you have to remember the original loot is literally just text and some rare attributes. Like there's not, you can't do anything with it, it's just an image. So people have actually gone out of the way to actually create an entire metaverse around it, because basically a lot of money came in. But you can even get loot apparel if you're really that passionate. If you want to project your ownership of the loot, you can just get a cap and slap it on. So there's other ways that NFTs are implemented in the blockchain industry. So you have gaming NFTs. So Gods Unchained is a card game issued on the blockchain. It's not dissimilar to Hearthstone, if you ever played that. They've been around for a few years now, and they've exploded in the amount of users that I have and market cap, etc. And they've actually needed to launch their own layer 2 network to actually deal with the expensive gas fees on Ethereum at the moment. So each trading card that you play with on the Gods Unchained is an NFT, and obviously once again they have very few attributes that are attributed to it that people will find value in. So NFTs are implemented there. We also have VV, I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but they are a digital card collection platform that issue, well, they say they issue NFTs for tokenized original Marvel comic collectibles. They say that NFTs, it's not actually NFTs, it's just a centralized server, so they can't buy in there, but I mean, it's NFT, it's the bull market, so they say they want. But yeah, so all the original comics from Marvel, so Fantastic Four, Spider-Man, Superman, blah, 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 they're issuing, in partnership with Marvel, they're issuing the verified NFTs representing those comics. And so for people who are collectors for these comics, physical collectors, they also now have an interest in buying the NFTs because they are a verified original due to partnership with Marvel. So all of a sudden, everyone's rushing in to buy these comic NFTs because once again they have value. So it's very fascinating. You have also other gaming companies like Aminoka, which they build a lot of small blockchain games you can now play on your phone that also have NFTs built into them, and they have collectible card offerings and stuff like that. This is a very interesting example for NFTs NFTs integrated into gaming. So Axie Infinity was founded in March 2018 by Vietnamese studio Sky Mavis. It's a play-to-earn model. So in order to actually enter and start playing Axie Infinity, there's two main ways. There's one way, which is you have to collect, or you have to buy into by collecting 3 Axies, which are these kind of cat thingies that are flying. In order to buy 3, you need to pay $750 US, which usually is way too much money for an ordinary person. So what you can also do is actually start playing for free by lending out, by kind of renting an Axie from another player who's already got Axies. So you can technically start for free and then earn money in the game to get your Axies and eventually build up kind of your stash, so to speak. You can make money by completing quests, competing against other Axies in battles to earn the in-game token called the Smooth Love Potion. You can breed your Axies, so for rare attributes, and if you breed an Axie that has a rare attribute, you can sell that on the marketplace. So basically the idea is that you can essentially trade your time in the game for money. And so what we've seen is a huge explosion of people in the Philippines, and Vietnam, and Southeast Asia play Axie Infinity, and people are actually feeding their families now by playing Axie Infinity. It's like a full-time job when they've got the cousins playing, and they create a business out of it where your kids now, and like they would have made a ton of money because Axie Infinity has exploded in value. Like it's literally 50x in value in the last 2 months. So these kids not only feeding their family now, like they're building houses and castles and stuff. Like, yeah, for sure. So some stats on Axie Infinity. So some of the top Axies with the most rarest of attributes have sold for 200, 300 ETH. So that's like 500k US. There's 1.5 million users. Like I said, most of them are from Southeast Asia. Very recent, I think it was 2 days ago, they did a Series B funding round. Some huge names like Excel, A16Z, Paradigm were in that round. And even though in the last month revenue has dropped like 150 million, last month alone they still did a $200 million revenue last month. And so you can see the explosion in revenue is clearly exponential. If you, even in June, it was something like 10 mil, and then in August it was 370 mil. So you can clearly tell like we have the exponential growth and the network effect that has occurred in all these small communities. I mean, I think the fundamental story about Axie Infinity is that it allows people to play this game, trade their time over the internet. There's no restriction on where you have to be or how skilled you are. It's just a freaking game, right? You can be a kid playing it, and you can earn money. Like you can earn life-changing money, right? That's what's incredible about it. And so, arguably, hundreds of thousands of people, or maybe not, maybe tens of thousands of people have been lifted out of poverty because of this blockchain nature game, which really fits into the ethos of the entire industry. So I think that's the reason why this is an incredible case study.
10-year-olds. Imagine all the 10-year-olds that.
What would you do with all that money? Don't know.
Buying more NFT.
Yeah, exactly right. You get another Axie, obviously. Like you gotta be, you know, you have an enterprise. You know. Yeah. So there's another type of NFT that's super interesting. It's called the POP. It's called the Proof of Attendance Protocol. And these type of NFTs are issued when an event occurs. So this protocol is built on XDAI, which is a sidechain of Ethereum. It was founded in 2019. And the entire idea is that when you go to an event, when you go to a normal event, you have to get a ticket. It might be through Eventbrite or whatever. And you get the ticket, and then it does its job, and then it's like, you can't lose it. I mean, it's a part of it, can't be able to pay attention to it anymore. The idea is that instead of issuing a ticket, why not create an NFT around it and then have some art attributed to that ticket as well? And then so every single event that you go to is now recorded in your Web3 wallet. So you have a history of events that you've gone to. So it's like a fun experiment, but I feel like they have very serious implications that I think people need to think about. So imagine that you attended a rare event. So maybe you went to a concert, to the last concert before a famous singer died or a famous entertainer died, or you went to a particular exclusive event, an election, or you went to a particular brand opening or whatever, and there was a ticket or POP issued for that event. I could use an example. So imagine, so the Think Different campaign by Steve Jobs through Apple was the campaign that really was the pivot for Apple to go from a company going bankruptcy to the company that's coming, to the company where it is today, $2 trillion company. And there was a lecture that was run to commence that Think Different campaign. That really encapsulated the immense gravity of the situation of needing to turn around Apple quickly in order to become a profitable company. And so imagine if that in the lecture room, POPs or NFTs were issued to everyone in the lecture room. And imagine if these POP NFTs were issued to everyone intricately connected to that campaign, so every single employee that works on the campaign, maybe even journalists that talked about it initially, let's say 5,000 people. This campaign, once again, was the inflection point for Apple to become to where it is today, which is $2 trillion company. It is the case, I think for sure, that a collector who values the Apple brand, who will go along and pay $1 million for an Apple One computer, might also be interested in buying that NFT that really represents the Think Different campaign. Because the Think Different campaign, how do you represent that in ownership? Like, you can't represent it by a computer, it's just like a thing that's stored in an article or whatever. A collector can't go and say, I want to own a piece of the Think Different campaign, because it's all digital. So NFTs allow for you to now kind of own a piece of history in ways that you couldn't ordinarily do. You can own something digitally instead of having to attribute something physically. So this is very interesting because now when you attend something that is a rare event or a point in time of history, your attendance, your experience in that part of the world is now yours to own. And you can use an NFT to claim ownership of your experience in your part of history. And then other people who might also agree that that part of history was important can say, well, I value what the NFT means. I value the brand that's associated with. I value, even your experience you've gone through, and I'm willing to buy the NFT off of you. So it could be the case that, let's just say you went to the last event before Kanye West died, God knows why or how, right? That NFT, those tickets might be valuable to people, right? Because people collect fashion, why would they collect NFTs? And so I imagine also that NFTs have artwork that's being produced by an artist locally in the area. So now people can own history and they can sell their tickets and sell their experience and make money off of it. Potential life-changing money. Just imagine going to an event and then 5 years down the road realizing you have it in your wallet and then it's left $100 grand. And so if that's the case, then there's financial incentive for everyone to issue NFTs, pop NFTs for every event. So then technically, if everyone has a Web3 wallet and then every event that everyone goes to, these NFTs are distributed, technically we're recording history. Everyone's recording history from the bottom up. So you can imagine, you have the elite of the world, the powerful of the world that are constructing history and their narrative of what has happened. They are choosing through the media outlets, right, of the news that comes out and what they think people should know about the past. But in this mechanism, we actually have the ability to actually build the history of the world from the bottom up, right? Because all the NFTs in everyone's Web3 wallets is on chain, so everyone can see it. So now you can't lie about history anymore, right? This is assuming every event is obviously used to just NFT with, right? But now you can build history and you can't lie about it. So as long as the chain is still existent, right, you can't lie about history anymore. Like, we can see that 10,000 people went to this event, right? It is there. You need to literally attack the chain and destroy it in order for you to change history. So I think this example was really interesting because it really demonstrates how this experiments and all this memology can actually shift very quickly into some very serious questions and very serious implications into society. This is talking about really shifting power frameworks, which is really going to cause an incredible amount of disruption and how potent, how easy, how scalable it can occur. So I think it's something to think about. So there's also NFTs and DAOs. So I'll be doing a talk on DAOs in a couple of months' time. It's simply a decentralized autonomous organization that allows for internet-native people to coordinate online effectively in a scalable way. And NFTs can be used as a way or as a filter to enter one of these DAOs. So there's a DAO which is kind of like a cooperative, and if you want to become a part of the DAO, you need to purchase an NFT that represents the DAO in some way in order for you to enter. And it could be that it's a new NFT collection and you have to actually buy the NFT off the DAO, and so that money from the NFT is issued into a treasury in the DAO, and then the people in the DAO decide what to do with that money. Or it could be that only people who have CryptoPunks and a few other collections can enter the DAO. So that could be something like ensuring that only the most competent people and the most influential people enter kind of the corporate of the DAO. So NFT can be used as kind of a gateway. There's an interesting example of this. It's called the Nouns DAO, and it just started with 10 people. The person that started Loots, so Dom Hoffman, and a few other people who are CryptoPunks, a few other influential people started the DAO. So the idea is these original founders, they have a lot of social capital, right? They're right in the middle of the industry, they're very influential. And the premise of the DAO is very simple. Every single day, a new NFT, a noun NFT is minted. So it's literally a noun, like a word noun. Like they just literally picked a random set of nouns. And they said every day a new NFT is going to be minted that is a noun. So it could be today boat, tomorrow is cat, the next day is house. This is random, right? And then these art pieces are attributed to the noun. And in no way are they indicative of the word of the noun. Like this pickle avatar could be like boat or something, right? It's just random, right? It's just the meaning. But the entire point of this DAO is that in order for you to get in, you have to buy the DAO. So if you want to become a part of the original 10 people in the DAO, you need to buy one of these nouns, noun NFTs. And the reason why you want to do that is because as soon as you're in that DAO, you have immediate access to all these people, all these influencers, all these people in the industry that can incredibly advance your career very quickly. So, the first Noun DAO that came out sold for 613 ETH, which is almost $2 million. And so it sounds ridiculous because it's literally just dumb pictures with a dumb noun, like why would people, but that person who paid for that Nouns DAO, that Nouns NFT, they said, I value the social connections to those original founders at $2 million. So you can imagine if you're someone who's made a lot of money but doesn't have that much social connection into the Ethereum community, all of a sudden you can literally buy yourself into the community via this DAO. And that is the reason why someone paid 613 ETH. And so I think as of today, 64 Noun NFTs have been distributed, which then means that 64 unique people outside of the original 10 have entered that DAO. And so those people now have those connections, and they can advance their career in ways in months that they couldn't do maybe 3-4 years. So that's kind of the way to put a price on social capital. As of right now, I'm pretty sure the Noun DAO has over $20 million in the treasury, and I'm very certain that one of their goals is to distribute it out to charity. So, because a lot of people have so much money, $20 million is nothing to them. So I kind of outlined this before, but owning some of these NFTs, especially the really expensive ones, isn't just the fact that you own a piece of art. It's not just that. It's a representation of the other people that own that piece of art. It's a representation of the community at the time. It's a representation of the industry, state at the time. It's representing of all these things. And it allows you to be a part of a group that's exclusive. And so when you walk about, maybe you're proud of the fact that you're in this group. And so then maybe you want to project out the fact that you're in this group. And so you can see someone here, they've got an Apple Watch, they've got a bit of a framing around the Apple Watch, and they've got a Fidenza artwork. Supposedly that person owns it. And this person clearly is proud of the fact that they own it, and they want other people to know that they own it, right? They're projecting. Because fundamentally, people seek for social validation, people want to be in the in-group, people want to project their exclusivity, they want to project their importance. So this is why NFTs are super interesting, and this I'm going to talk about a little bit more is a really, really powerful narrative NFTs. This is a good example. This was literally today. This person posted it. So Christie's, which I get up before, is a huge auction house. They did a NFT event, and someone came in with a mask, but the mask had LEDs, like LED screen, and the LED screen had NFTs. Oh, it says right here, the LED display had a picture of the punk on it. So that person owns the punk and wants to project out the fact that they own the punk, and everyone knows what the punk is. So since the person walks around, everyone's like, "That's sick! Like you own a punk, like you're clearly an OG, clearly, all of a sudden, like a conversation created around it." So it's a very powerful mechanism to create conversation. And something as simple as that could create like a deal, like a business deal, like within 5 minutes, just because you projected that out. So it has distinct monetary value, possibly. So we talked a little bit how with DAOs that we haven't really got into much, you have these communities, people forming communities online and working together and providing value in an efficient manner, hopefully. And let's just say that you have contributors to these communities and they're proud of their particular work. And because it's digitally native, how do you represent that in real life? So you can go to the next step and say, well, okay, maybe instead of projecting artwork, what if I could project like fashion pieces? What if I could project, so this is a good example. These socks are called uni socks, and they are attributed to Uniswap. And the entire idea of this is that if you walk around these uni socks, it means that when Uniswap issued these Uniswaps, you were right there, minting it, which means that you had close access to that community. So by having and wearing those socks, you're projecting the fact that you're a part of the core community in Uniswap, which has huge value because Uniswap has provided so much value to the Ethereum community. So that's like a fashion piece. So you can imagine then, and this is happening, it's starting to happen right now, what if AR, augmented reality, in 3-5 years' time popped up? And you had people, instead of doing physical fashion design, but doing digital fashion design. And let's just say you're a part of the community, and then some digital fashion designers decide to build digital fashion pieces. And then just imagine that that community had a particular jacket that was very specific and unique to that community. So you can imagine then now, in 3-5 years' time, everyone's got AR glasses, because of course everyone's going to buy Apple AR glasses. Everyone's bought AirPods, everyone's bought the latest iPhone, so they're going to buy these AR glasses. You put the AR glasses on, and you're part of this community, and now you own this blazer that's very unique to your community. When people see you in real life, your AR glasses will render that blazer on you. So you walk around physically, you're not wearing the blazer, but in AR, you'll be seeing it. So you can imagine that maybe your digital community has a meetup, you know, go to the city, have a meetup, have a few drinks. And instead of like ordinary people, when you put the AR glasses on, everyone's wearing the same blazer. So straight away you realize these people have been working in the internet community, and if these people have been working on something huge that has had tremendous impact into the world, they are now projecting the fact that it was them. So now when you have the AR glasses on, you see those blazers and you go, whoa, like those people are very important people, and they're projecting out the fact that they've done important things for wearing the blazer. And it's all digital, right? So it's fashion, digital fashion, you know, will also, and these pieces will be represented as NFTs. So if there's people who own these NFTs who are issuing their community wish to sell that, they could potentially sell it for $500,000 or whatever is value, because people might value the fact that the work that they did was important. So you kind of can see where this is going, right? And I mentioned this a bit later, but Metaverse is a kind of attributed to like virtual worlds, but having the digital world overlaying into the physical world is also a form of the Metaverse, right? So that's how NFTs are really infiltrating our world. And with everything that I've just said, it makes so much sense, and I think there's a lot of commentary to make and to say that NFTs is actually potentially the pathway to mass adoption for crypto, because tokens for the ordinary person is a bit like, oh, it's just a token, yeah, money go up, yeah, that's great. It's a bit taboo or whatever. But with an NFT and the attribution to fashion and art, people can relate to that, people can identify with that. So there is commentary to say that NFTs are the gateway for mass adoption in crypto in the next 5 years. So this is another example. So this literally happened a few weeks ago. So Dolce & Gabbana, who are a huge fashion brand, they released a 9-piece physical digital collection, which sold for $5.7 million US. They were approached by a digital marketplace who curate digital culture, and each piece has digital elements along with a physical garment. I should have gotten a video, because this is just a picture, but I actually had a video of this humanoid walking with this garment, right? So you buy the physical garment, but you also get ownership of the digital piece attributed to it. And so, I mean, the idea is that if you're going to spend a significant amount of time and have a lot of wealth, and you want to start projecting art pieces and CryptoPunks, well then of course you're going to want to start wearing like expensive NFTs, expensive fashion pieces, because you want to be projecting your wealth, right? So this has already happened. This happened 2 weeks ago, and this is going to start happening as the technology matures. This is going to continue to happen. So that's kind of that was a rough summary of NFTs. I know it's gone for a while. I don't know what time it is. That was a very rough summary of NFTs. There's so much more going on. I mean, I could go on for hours, but we haven't got that much time, and frankly, I don't think anyone wants to spend 3 hours listening to it. So I'll finish the talk on NFTs for now. I want to get into Metaverse real quickly. So a Metaverse is kind of a bit of a loose term, but it loosely describes any particular virtual world where you can roam around freely and do whatever activity that you want to whatever degree the metaverse allows you to do. So something like World of Warcraft or RuneScape could be considered the first incarnations of a metaverse, where you can run around and get items and kill people, or build bases or whatever you'd like to do. And so metaverses have been built on Ethereum. The first metaverse, for sure, is Decentraland. The token's not land, it's mana, by the way. That's a mistake. But in this land, it's very simple. You can build entire towns, cities. You can go to casinos. You can race cars, visit art galleries, go to nightclubs. You can have a job. You can be an architect, build lands, build buildings. You can invest in lands, like a real estate agent. Basically, the entire idea is whatever you can do in the real life, you can do in Decentraland. Right? You can go to a shop, you can buy some food, eat it digitally, enjoy it. And you have to use mana, not lands, in order to conduct all your business in this world. And you can either just play it by a computer, or you can use virtual reality goggles if you have it. There's another metaverse called Crypto which is similar to Decentraland, but it's fundamentally built on blocks like Minecraft. So it's kind of like Minecraft, but in a metaverse on Ethereum. And so, as you would go on Minecraft and create worlds with blocks at a time, there are many hundreds of different types of blocks in Crypto metaverse. And so you can see in this example, someone's built a shop, and you can buy. I don't know if you can buy a Doge friend. Like, I don't know if that's an actual dog, or like an art. I don't know. Right, but you can see this person's just created a shop. They've actually created those art pieces, right, themselves using those blocks. And so someone can come along, Crypto land, and get the goggles, go, that's cool, and then they decide to buy that Doge for $5, or use $5 worth of the native token, which is the COR token, to buy items. And so you can buy lands, paraphernalia items, wearables, fashion items, buy things in stores, whatever you want. In this particular metaverse, a lot of events are held, a lot of virtual events. So especially when coronavirus has happened, in order for you to run an event, a lot of people can't run events in real life, so it's either you kind of run like a Zoom event, but because of Corona, a lot of people have decided, let's run a virtual event. So, and what's really interesting about events is events draws attention, and maybe one of the avatars is a virtual person. So then you have sponsorship for that digital event. So people think that 200 random virtual people are going to join that event, so now you have sponsorship for the event. And even in this world, there's like digital billboards where people are paying advertising, so that when people walk along that digital billboard, they look at the advertising in order to get awareness of whatever the advertisement is saying. So it's literally, quite literally, like trying to replicate the real world. And people are paying significant money for sponsorship for an event now. So they'll pay $5,000 to $10,000 to sponsor a virtual event, and you have these virtual carriers walking around. So it's not a meme anymore. Like it's still a meme, but it's real life. This is just a description of the fact that, like I was saying before, the metaverse is not just virtual reality. It is going to be digital reality overlaying onto physical reality. And a lot of this is going to be powered by NFTs. You can imagine, like I said before, you have augmented reality rendering fashion on you. If you bought digital fashion, it could be augmented reality, popping up information when you're at a certain location in the world, digital billboards, advertisements, like I said. This is going to be absolutely everywhere. The biggest limiting constraint of this is the development of AI technology, and it's going to take 3 to 5 years for sure. The compute power and the bandwidth required to connect your glasses to your phone in order to render a piece of clothing or something on you in real time that actually looks like you're wearing it, it's going to take a lot of advancements in computation, but it's going to happen. So this is kind of like a last note, a bit short of talk on Metaverse, but it's kind of one of the last kind of thoughts I want to leave on, or when you think about Metaverse, is that we've established that these Metaverses exist and people have been thinking about it for a while and they've implemented it and people are participating in these Metaverses. But the reality is that the Web2 incumbents like Facebook, Google, etc., also realize the huge implications and the amount of attention people are going to start paying in these Metaverses. And these incumbents have billions of dollars. They've got the capital, they've got the engineers, they've got the interest, they have the ability to build the software, all required to build their own closed metaverses where they'll build a metaverse, all the users that they already have on their platform can participate in their metaverse and essentially carve out their piece of the pie of this new part of the industry. And this is a huge issue because what we don't want is allow Facebook to build another product that's going to farm all of our attention, all of our energy, to waste even more time so they can make even more money and we become slaves to their platform. We don't want that. We want people to be empowered with their time and energy, just like how people are playing Axie Infinity and potentially making tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars just by playing it with their time. We want that to happen to everyone in the metaverse. What we don't want is to have Facebook and Google build their own metaverses and we play for free because it's fun and we're addicted because they know how to screw with our psychology, and then they make billions or trillions off of us. But the problem is that people don't care about decentralization. People don't care about all the extra issues that are required for you to deal with when you start playing with a decentralized game. So what is going to happen for sure is in the next 3 to 5 years, we're going to have a Facebook metaverse, we're going to have a Google metaverse, we're going to have the social media metaverses, and people are going to play them. People are going to get sucked in. Millions of people are going to get sucked in. And they're going to get farmed. They're not going to make any money. And this is a real problem. And so it is with absolute importance right now that everyone who is a part of building up the metaverse in Web3, in this blockchain industry, take this very seriously because we need to ensure that we build products that carve their niche in this growing part of the industry so that people on board in time, we can create our market share. Because if we fail at this, then we're going to have all these incumbents who produce their metaverses. But what I think regardless is going to happen is, even if people get sucked in, 100 million people are playing the Facebook metaverse, what I think is going to happen is that people get sick and tired of the fact that they're not making any money, the fact that they're wasting all their time, and they're going to see these decentralized options and eventually go, all right, I'm going to start participating in those options. Now, it's going to take 3 to 5 years, or even longer, and while these metaverses by Facebook, etc., grow exponentially, it gives the opportunity for people in the blockchain industry and part of the Web3 industry to observe all the mistakes that Facebook is making with their metaverses because they're kind of pioneering how it's going to look like. So in a way, maybe we can allow for Facebook and all these incumbents to build their metaverses out, see where they screw up in, and then we can then focus all of our efforts on only the areas that they're screwing up in, which will create more conviction for people to swap over when the time eventually comes, which it will. So we need to be urgent, but I still think that just the fundamentals of Web2 company and their event-seeking behavior is going to screw up people over eventually, and people aren't going to be happy with it. So ideally, we have Web3 metaverses where people can play, make money, and do whatever they want, have freedom, and not be manipulated in everything that they do. So let's hope that happens. I think that we will do the right job. I'm a bit scared of Facebook. I don't like Facebook at all. So, but we'll see what happens anyway. Yeah, that's pretty much the end of the talk. I think it was pretty comprehensive. I hope you had a bit of an understanding of the metaverse in general as well. As the talks go along with DeFi and DAO, I'll also integrate DAO into the metaverse in those talks as well, because the metaverse actually encapsulates NFTs, DeFis, and DAOs. It actually encapsulates all of it. So in order to understand what the metaverse is and how it can really truly impact our world, you need to understand those components. I guess there's one other thing I want to say is I personally don't like the particular idea of like billions of people like spending all their time on virtual reality. Like I don't like that idea in particular. Like I really want to think that people actually value the physical reality enough. Like I think it can be quite great. But it is the case that regardless, hundreds of millions of people are going to spend a significant amount of time in virtual reality. So everything that I've talked about is still stands, and it's going to be the case for the next 20 years. I just hope we're not all sitting in our chairs 22 hours a day in these worlds. Hopefully we can integrate. So I'm actually much more interested in digital world overlaid with the physical world. Because you're still participating in the physical world, you're still doing things, plus also you get all the kind of additional kind of benefits of the digital world and how it can enhance our culture and our relationships and our conversations. So yeah, that's everything. Thank you.
That was cool, Paul.
Good?
Yeah, thanks, man.
Yeah. Yes, question, Eric? Any more questions?
Yeah, do you know, you were speaking about the APFS and centralized place, and when you mean some NFT on OpenSea or Rarible or some stuff?
Say again, sir?
When you mean some, or you buy some stuff on OpenSea, Rarible, or this kind of website,
Yeah.
so they're in the centralized server until you put them on chain?
Right, so it depends on the collection. So the OpenSea Marketplace facilitates secondary sales of a collection. But they have their own smart contracts to deal with the sales of that, but they don't dictate where the information, the metadata of, we should put the mic on. They don't actually dictate the storage of the NFT. The artists of the collection of the NFTs actually dictate where the metadata is stored for those NFTs. So OpenSea, Rarible, etc., those marketplaces don't have anything to do with it.
So you need to dig in the contract to see where it is?
Yeah, you need to dig in the contract to see where the actual data is, if it's on chain or IPFS or yeah.
Oh, they can type in there.
Is that it? Yes.
How many NFTs do you own?
Dozens. Dozens.
Did you catch any of the rocket ships?
No comment. I didn't catch Luke's. I was right there though.
What number board ape have you got?
I'm not saying anything.
They have more loops too. They made more loops.
What was that?
They made more loops.
Yes. Yeah. When the loots came out, on the day that the loot came out, my friend minted one. And he's like, dude, like check out these loot. I was like, this is fucking dumb. What are you on about? Like, and like that's just my naivety and ignorance. Like when it's done, that's when you buy it. Obviously, like so it tends to be the case that those type of unique events don't happen like the same. Maybe another unique event like that happens again, but it looks always different. So you have to be like sharp. But honestly, just such a big regret. Like I'm just saying, it's like you deserve that. You know, like if you're gonna be ignorant or eat it. Like yeah, that was frustrating.
A lot of the time, though, you can't really tell if it's actually going to be big.
Yeah, exactly right. I honestly didn't want to pay the gas fees. I didn't want to pay $40 for gas fees.
Yeah. That's outrageous.
Yeah, but it's just like $40, 150 grand.
That's the best mistake. The gas fee is always a mistake. Like it's
Yeah.
expensive, but after you lose 100K.
Yeah, right.
So
Like
40K is not.
yes, it's not a big deal at all. Like I mean, you have to just figure it yourself. You know, and just like it's okay. What's the next opportunity? Yeah.
No, we have a like Solidity study group where we're like learning Ethereum. So if anyone wants to join that, you can come talk to us. Or we've got a Discord and a Facebook thing.
Absolutely.
Oh, we're looking for you.
Yeah, I should have mentioned that. So we have a group of students who are working on few projects.
Yeah.
So if you're super keen on that, then just come to the front and meet a few of these guys who work on the projects, and we'll invite you to our socials and our Discord so we can start kind of getting the community going. I mean, a lot of you are probably quite new, but Adelaide blockchain was actually like a blockchain student run community group like 2 years ago. And like I said at the beginning of the talk, I thought with the state of injury at the moment, I thought it would be really good to get people's attention again about what's happening right now. And I think that even if one person came to talk and got really excited by what's happening and then made it their career, it's worthwhile. And that's kind of the mentality that I had 3 years ago, and now we have multiple startups coming out to the communities that we built, right? So you never know, maybe in 2-3 years time, some of you guys are building the future metaverse. You know, you never know. It's a possibility. So that's the reason why we do this stuff. So it's super great. Yeah. Okay, cool.
CryptoPunk poses the thing.
Possibly. I'll go find him if he's out there.